Business Insight. Definitely be alive, coming to you from Kenya Broadcasting, our broadcasting house here in Nairobi. I told you we want to discuss cybersecurity here in Kenya and how it impacts your day-to-day life. And I told you Richard Muthua is the executive head at Internet Solutions. He's joining us here. Thank you very much, Muthua, for joining us.
Thank you.
And next to Muthua, we have Joseph Mathenge. He's the Chief Operating Officer at SERIANU. Mathenge, many thanks for joining us here.
Glad to be here.
I want to start with you. I can see you have the latest copy of the Africa Cybersecurity Report, prepared, of course, by SERIANU. I haven't gotten time to go through it. Is it telling us a different story from what we know?
That we are experiencing a significant loss from cybersecurity? No, the storyline remains the same. That we have significant cybersecurity skills gap from the professionals that we expect out there to be protecting the assets? Mm-hmm. No, the storyline pretty much remains the same.
So the trend is still worrying?
It is significantly worrying, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mathenge, from where you sit, do you agree with this report, or the situation is more dire?
Well, so to be honest, I haven't gone through this report, basically, but the situation around cybersecurity in this country is quite dire. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are losing every day. And basically, from the statistics that we showed there, you've rightly said that probably about 100% more of the cases that happen are not reported upon. Mm-hmm. So the statistics that come out really don't show the real picture. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you take us, 1 minute and you help us define what is cyber threat or what is cybercrime?
So basically, we can start from looking at the cyber world. Mm. It's a very abstract part of the world. And what's happening is, if we talk about what threats are there, we have threats, enormous threats when it comes to losing data, when it comes to losing your personal data, mm-hmm. losing money, and losing other things like brand equity. Mm. So that really becomes very confusing in the business world. And the reason for that is because all the business right now cannot survive, or no business can survive without having some cyber security, cyber assets inbuilt because of the digitizations mm-hmm. and automation and mm-hmm. everything that goes around with them. So because businesses have to move into digitization and they have to move into the cyber world, they move with the risk that comes with the cyber security aspect of the cyber world. Mm-hmm. And basically the threats that are there really are accelerated in terms of actuation when you go to the cyber world and you start operating in the cyber world. So mm-hmm. the key thing about the threats is that they are enormous, and the problem is that we have not been able as a country, as a world, to basically get hold of all these threats and manage them properly.
And manage them properly.
Yes.
Help us understand, who is at risk?
Well, the first target, obviously, that cyber criminals will go after is where you can get financial resources. So financial institutions become their first and most immediate target. Mm-hmm. Here we're talking about banks, we're talking about SACCOs, we're talking about microfinance, we're talking about any industry sector that is dealing with financial data. Mm-hmm. Building on that is anything else that can be used to collect or to target financial resources. So hospitals in terms of healthcare data, we're talking about manufacturing or even retailing, we're talking about insurance, mm-hmm. pretty much all sectors, provided they have some form of financial gain, mm-hmm. will attract cyber criminals.
Will attract cyber criminals. And we know for sure that Kenya is a leader when it comes to mobile money platforms. Are they at risk as well?
So yes, your traditional banking has moved from the banking hall to your mobile device. Mm-hmm. We can now bank anywhere, anytime, mm-hmm. From sitting comfortably at your house or even when you're traveling somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And with that expanded banking sector, with that expanded ability to access your financial needs, mm-hmm. comes, of course, the increased risk, just like was stated by Richard.
Very good. Richard, I want to hear from you, how widespread is cybercrime in Kenya?
That's interesting because it's as widespread as technology is. So today we're seeing even children in school are learning using technology. I mean, children in class 1, class 2, class 3. We are seeing technology everywhere. Right now, you're using technology where you are.
Yeah.
And as technology spreads, so is cybersecurity or cyber crime and threats spread. And for me, the reason for that is, again, abundance in the internet capacity and connectivity. Everybody today is connected. So the more people we find connected, the more fertile this ground becomes for cyber criminals, and the easier for them it will be to get to either your bank account, get to your assets, and not only physical assets. We're talking about IP assets, IP meaning intellectual property.
Yeah.
And if you take, for example, a musician who's been producing the music and they're trying to make money out of it, and they say, because I need to easily sell my music, I need to digitize it, put it somewhere on my hard disk, on my phone, and everywhere. It means because all these things today are interconnected, then you open up all your IP property for or to the cyber criminals, and you stand to lose a lot. So it is as widespread as technology is.
As technology is.
Yes.
Tell me this. I mean, I've tried to flip through the pages of the 2018 report, and you're reporting a significant spike in terms of losses due to cybercrime. This figure jumping from around 21 billion shillings in 2017 to around 30 billion shillings.
Correct.
That's a spike of almost 9 billion shillings. I mean, I thought, you know, with the knowledge sharing, this figure should be coming down. What's not adding up?
So on the reality side of technology is that we're using it more widely spread. This is an item that has been discussed more than once. With that, organizations, in recognizing that they need to grow their business and reach new clients of a younger, more technologically surveyed type, then they will put their products and their ways of connecting with this new client base on that technology platform. With that, of course, unfortunately, comes a bigger exposure. It's a new development, a new area to move faster, and not moving as fast in protecting those particular platforms. So that's why we have seen this significant jump from $210 million to $295 million. Like you correctly mentioned, that is a huge, huge jump in terms of losses.
9 billion shillings definitely is a lot of money. Tell me, how do you manage to collect these figures, bearing in mind that financial institutions are not going to tell the public, yes, we lost this money because of a cyber attack?
Right.
How do you manage to collect that figure?
So SERIANU is a research-based organization. We have built tons and tons of relationships with organizations across Kenya, across Africa, who were able to build a trust relation where we're able to collect this data so as to be able to publish it. We have built close relationships with law enforcement who investigate this particular scenarios. We, for example, report that there was an increase in the number of cases that organizations reported of being victims of cybercrime, an 11% increase, with another 7% increase in terms of successful prosecution. So the law enforcement is understanding what they need to do with the new bills, for example, the Computer Misuse Crime Bill, and with that, we have a more awareness of what's happening out there and how the perpetrators are coming in, so as to build the defense mechanisms around it. It is key that we gain that understanding of how the malicious actors are attempting to infiltrate into the environment, both successful and unsuccessful, because that's how we build the protections.
Tell me this. I mean, we have the Kenya Cybercrimes Act, which is a law. Why then do we have these cases rising? Whereas, you know, we have this law that helps, you know, to arrest the situation.
So the law is there, and we all know that the country has a lot of laws, and all countries have a lot of laws. The weakest chain in the whole of this ecosystem, which is the cybersecurity and the business world, is basically the human. And it is humans who are supposed to enforce that law. The first problem with that is that I believe we have very little knowledge when it comes to the law enforcers of what happens in the cyber world. There could be several people trained, there could be experts, but they are not sufficient, and they are not sufficiently connected to the real world when it comes to cybersecurity. Having said that, the fact that there is a law that's been crafted, and that law is not being enforced by people who would understand exactly how to enforce, where to enforce, and what to follow when they are really trying to enforce this law, it means that law is as good as not being there.
So why is the law not being effected?
So as I said, the weakest link in this chain is a human aspect. So we need to have a lot of awareness when it comes to the law enforcers around how do they get into the cyber criminal space, how do you get to break down a cyber crime and really get to the bottom of it properly without going for the wrong people, because mostly they would be going for the wrong people. So for example, if you look at if there's an incident that happens in a premise or something like a bank, most of the time the people who are followed are the people who would be captured by the CCTV, for example. But most likely these are not the perpetrators of these crimes. The actual perpetrators are virtual. So we need to understand that virtual world. And the virtual world would be software. People build softwares, and these software applications act like humans or act better than humans. So because these are things that are not in our world, they do not have bodies like we do, we will not understand what they do unless we are fully trained around it. So I believe it's around knowledge and capacity building.
Mathenge, I want to hear from you. Why is it that the public is not willing to report cybercrime to the police if the figures we were to go by are correct here, whereby you have over 90%, of victims, opting not to report this to the police? Why is this the case?
So Kenya as a country, we did a good thing last year in passing that computer misuse crime bill, because what we did was to provide law enforcement with a tool by which they would be able to investigate and prosecute, and also provide assurance to Kenyans as to if I was to go and report this, there's actually a law around which somebody could be able to be prosecuted. If you went and studied the details of the Computer Misuse Act, you'll see it goes through multiple stages in outlining national committees and what they're supposed to do, listing, I believe, up to 47 different offenses, listing how the information can be prosecuted, talking about international cooperation, which is required. See, the thing about the cyber world is that the borders don't really mean anything. You could be getting attacked by somebody who is sitting across the room from you. You could be getting attacked from somebody who is on the other side of the world. Their intent is the same. They are looking to derive you of something that they want. And without the correct laws in place to both investigate, to collect the evidence, to train the law enforcement, to train the citizens in terms of if I go and report it, this is under what offense and what's going to happen about it, that was key in terms of raising it. And the report does show our statistics have gone up in terms of the number of people who are willing to report that indeed there has been a victim of cybercrime, and the number of successful prosecutions from that has also gone up. So it is a slow and perhaps painful process, but we are going to get there. And again, the problem is not necessarily restricted to just Kenya. It is really a global problem. It is a regional problem and a global problem, as you listed on the statistics. So we are still on the path in terms of getting there. But the cyber world does provide anonymity. That anonymity allows a criminal to be able to act without us being able to follow them as well. It does separate cyber criminals away from law enforcement hands. If indeed you are attacking from a country where you have no relation so as to be able to retrieve the criminal and can't prosecute them, that becomes an issue. So some of these things definitely contribute to that particular scenario.
And when you look at the number of professionals who are trained in the field of cybersecurity, you're talking about 17,000 personnel in a country of almost 55 million people, and with a security, with a police force of almost 100,000 people. How are we expected then to police this industry?
So the heart of our report talks truly about the cybersecurity skills gap. Now, a quick distinction here. There is professional, and as mentioned earlier on, organizations have put a lot of emphasis on certifications. You go out and get certified in one form or level of system security. Certifications doesn't necessarily mean skill. Skill is acquired over time. You have to practice your craft so as to get truly skilled at it. And I think that's the gap that we're experiencing right now. We have a lot of certified people, but without the skills to be able to, one, build systems that are secure, to investigate and respond when there's an incident ongoing, and then minimize the damage around it. That huge gap, that area of concern really is a contributor to this.
Tell me this, Mathenge, Muthua, what then should we do as a country?
So the most important thing, and the first point I would start at, is skilling the people rightly. So for me, people, it means people in the technology space, not only to have papers and certifications, but we need to be, first of all, responsible as corporate citizens when you talk as business. So for example, at Internet Solutions, today we are running, or the last 2 days, we've been running cybersecurity and business continuity training off in Mombasa. And what these trainings are meant to do is to skill the people who've been certified now to be able to run in the real world, because it's very different when you learn theory or you try things in the lab and you come out here and you're being told, here is an enterprise organization that has its systems that are running live corporate applications and core business applications, and you're supposed to secure it. So we have built this expertise within the organization, and what we are doing as responsible corporate citizens is to say, we need to train, first of all, our clients, and we also need to train the world around what do you need to be for you to call yourself a security expert, for example. What do you need to learn? What do you need to be aware of for you to call yourself an expert in building up policies, in building up strategies, in building up paths to make sure that the law is enforced properly? So these training curriculums and these training programs are built by experts, people who are certified and are highly experienced. So I think the important thing is to skill the citizenry. And for me, the citizenry starts from that mother at home who's given the children iPads and phones and they have access to the internet. That police officer at one of the police stations, they need to understand that by picking someone's phone and going through it, because they're trying to look for traces of cybercrime, they might not see anything, but they need to go deeper, maybe to even try and unformat what's been cleaned off the phone. So we need to do that at different levels, depending on where these people are, and that way we will start building a whole circle of knowledge that will be a 360 view of cybersecurity knowledge and protection.
Mathenge, I want to hear from you. Are we as a country well prepared and well equipped, to deal with cases of cyber threats? And I want to try and put this into perspective. The year 2016, the US, since the year 2016, the US has been having a tiff with Russia, with the US alleging that, with some quarters in the US alleging that Russia somehow managed to manipulate their elections. And this, we are talking about the United States. Yes. And here we have Kenya, and we want to take our election process, to the IT platform. Are we really prepared for this?
So I would leave the question of preparedness to government who are responsible.
No, from where you sit or from where you stand, do you think the government is prepared? Because you are the one who is in the research field.
So I will champion very much on the computer misuse crime bill, because what it has done is to put into context that if you break the law in this particular way of intruding onto systems, we shall hold you accountable. That I do cheer quite loudly, because I do think it's a strong step forward. There is also quite a bit of investment in terms of training and upskilling, as mentioned by Muthua about it. Multiple organizations that have spent time and energy in training citizenry in terms of how to protect their own data. We are passing laws around data privacy, which will definitely help prepare Kenya to combat that menace when we get to that point in time. So I think there's a lot of work being put in to ensure that we meet this head on with the very best tools that we possibly can master.
As we come to the end of this engagement, I want to hear from you. I mean, somebody who is at home watching this program, I'm maybe wondering, I mean, I do not use laptops. I do not use PCs. I only have a smartphone. Should they be concerned? And if they should be concerned, then what do they need to do?
Well, so it's interesting because you have more information about yourself on your smartphone, and you spend more time on your smartphone than you would spend on a laptop or a desktop somewhere in your office. So Should they be concerned? Absolutely. They really need to be concerned, but concern only will not help you. For me, it's about an advice and say to everybody watching this show that if you have a smartphone, make sure you use it smartly, because we've seen a lot of security breaches that come through the smartphones and into the bank accounts. They come through the smartphones into your smart homes. They come through smartphones into a lot of other things, including your personal information. People have lost money. People have lost their individual brand equities because of misusing smartphones. So what I can say is use your smartphone smartly. Otherwise, it's going to outsmart you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the issue of child bullying, I mean, is also becoming a very, it's also being thrust to the forefront. What should parents do to ensure or to mitigate against children bullying?
This is actually one thing that I'm very passionate about. The level of technology savviness that our children have right now far exceeds anything that we have experienced. Mm-hmm. So how do you govern? How do you guide on something where the child is much ahead of you in terms of knowing what to do with it? Mm-hmm. We talk about it extensively in terms of attacking it head on. Do not shy away from being an outright snoop. If indeed your children are on these smart devices, what exactly are they doing online? What videos are they watching on YouTube? Who are they chatting on any one of WhatsApp or any one of those groups? Get very aggressive in terms of understanding who they're dealing with, because they do not have the capacity to make those controls in themselves. Mm-hmm. When we freely provide our devices, and you see this all the time, you'll go to restaurants, you'll go to public places, and you'll find this very young 1-year-old child sitting there trying to eat at the same time on their phones. Mm-hmm. I think we're giving up our parentage and giving it up to children, whereas we are supposed to be engaging them and learning them to, teaching them how to interact with other adults, and at the same time truly paying attention to what is going on that device.
Well, how do you do that without sounding and being intrusive?
You have to be intrusive.
There are no two ways about it.
There is no two ways about it. Mm-hmm. As a parent, your work is to protect that child, and intrusion sometimes is what you need to do so as to protect that child. I have absolutely no doubts about it. Hit it head on, see exactly what they're doing, and if you do not like it, yank it away.
Mathenge, I can tell you that you're one of the most unpopular chaps around here with the young people. I want to come back to you, yes. Muthua. Tell me this, I mean, protecting your phone with a password, or what do we call the other thing?
The pattern.
The pattern.
Yes.
Is that enough to protect you from cyber attack?
Absolutely not, because as you rightly said, you're talking about cyber attacks. So when it's cyber attacks, I do not need to have access to your phone for me to attack you. All these things are abstract when you're living in our world. Again, if you talk to security experts or people who really know software, they will tell you password is not security. They will tell you patterns might not really be security. They can be broken into very easily. So what I can say is, if that is the best you can do in terms of putting security, put a password and patterns and maybe biometrics, then go for it, do it, and make sure you do it well. But there are a lot of other ways to protect yourself from losing data or getting infringed around your privacy through your devices. Number one is, for example, make sure that you only have necessary data on your device. And make sure if there's any data that is there, things like photos, things like documents, don't have them on your smartphone, because there are a lot of people who can. Absolutely. So
you should not have. This is very interesting. How then do we survive?
So you will lose. You will definitely use. As I said, you have you as a person, and you have you as a brand. It's very easy for me to take a photo from your phone if I hack into your phone, get that photo, and go ahead and do something like Photoshop, cause some crazy mayhem around your image as a person. So that is one problem. So if you can put the photos there and you can secure them, then that's fine. But I'm saying, can we have...
How do you secure them?
So there are a lot of, so for example, applications that you can use to secure your phone. And if you talk to security experts and businesses that do security, like SERIANU, like Internet Solutions, they can really take you through that advice and tell you exactly what applications you need to use, how they're going to secure you. up to what level they're going to secure you, because you cannot have 100% security. So that is one way of basically making sure you're secure when you're using your smart device. And then the other level of security is now the person. Make sure you don't just connect to any Wi-Fi that you get. Most people right now, they're saying, I do not want to use my bundles because I'm having coffee at a coffee house. Let me connect to this Wi-Fi. The moment you connect to public Wi-Fi, it's like actually removing your door in your house. You've removed the door, you've not even opened it. So anyone who wants to walk in doesn't even need to look. So they will walk in, they will walk right into your bedroom, they will see what time you come and sleep, they will come and look at how do you eat, how do you behave. And once they do that, then they have all the information around you. So in the virtual world, how that person walks in is through ransomware software. So these pieces of software will come and sit at the back of your device and observe you. If every day you take a photo and you send to him, or every 6 p.m. you maybe put on your Uber app and get an Uber from location A to location B, then they will track you down. And the day they want to hit, because they've been waiting, you will have no escape. They will follow you in all your paths, and they will pin you down in all the exits and entries you have as a user.
So your message to the people out there,
Yes,
including us, is
yes,
do not just jump on any free Wi-Fi that you come across.
please don't.
Because you want to save data.
Absolutely, please don't do that.
Tell me this, are there devices that are more susceptible to cyber attack? For example, am I more safer with a Kabambe phone than with a smartphone, for example?
So those two phones are significantly different. A Kabambe is designed purely to make calls and receive SMSs, whereas a smartphone will grant you more internet access, and with that, everything that comes with being on the internet. It is certainly more engaging, entertaining when you have with you a smartphone, but with that comes a larger platform on which you
The
can
risk
get attacked.
is elevated.
Is elevated. So your choice in terms of that much difference in terms of features of one phone to another, and the specific feature that I focus on is an internet-enabled internet access device as compared to one that doesn't have it, then absolutely, you with an internet-enabled phone have exposed yourself that much more than somebody who doesn't have it.
Should we then go back to feature phones?
I was going to come back to that. Our reality is we cannot. Our reality is that we cannot go away from this technology. Our reality is that we're not going to give up our smartphones. Our reality is that we're not going to go back to the huge tethered on your desktop as compared to your most slick tablet that you use on a day in, day out basis. But there is a situational awareness that we need to develop. If, God forbid, on your way home tonight, your vehicle was to break down, you would be very careful about where you are and get yourself quickly out of that position as much as you can. We don't exercise that same caution when we are on the internet. Using the same example that he just said, we quickly connect to any Wi-Fi without paying attention to what type of Wi-Fi is this, who is behind it. I have accessed my email, I've checked my bank account, I am sending, uploading pictures and messages. You're exposing yourself to God knows who.
Very good. We have to wind up. Muthua, your last comments.
Well, so I think my strongest point is gain knowledge, gain the right knowledge as a citizen, as anyone who is in this world, because there's no one who's basically protected fully. There's no one who can avoid using technology. Technology is everywhere. You go to hospitals, you go to even churches these days are using technology. So just make sure you're aware of your environment around technology. Make sure you do everything that you can to protect yourself. Make sure you do not just accept anything before you know exactly what it is. Don't accept the terms and conditions on applications that come to your phone. Don't accept any installations that come to your phone without knowing what they are. And again, don't connect to any internet connection that you gain access to.
In short, cybersecurity starts with you.
Absolutely.
Can we wrap it up at that point?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for joining us here and, of course, sharing with us your insight. We look forward to having you again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And, of course, we've been chatting with Richard Muthua. He's the executive head at Internet Solutions, and Joseph Mathenge, he's the chief operating officer at SERIANU, both joining us here to help us explore the issue of cybersecurity and what you need to do to safeguard your interests.